And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection, your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. Women Supporting Women has emerged as a movement that celebrates female achievements and encourages collaboration over competition. This shift in perspective is crucial, especially considering that women-owned businesses are growing at a rate of 1.0 times faster than the national average. On today's Open Connection, we bring you the third and final part of Women in Leadership Roles at this year's Nation to Nations Women's Gathering.
I go back to my traditional teachings and that's the experience that I draw upon. And it's being a good auntie, being a good mother, being a good spouse, being a good niece. And I believe that my leadership style really reflects those values. And I try really hard to seek first to understand, but also to foster inclusivity and just being the good role model to the team and to my coworkers and to the people that have to answer to me, and to my fellow managers and stakeholders, the clients that we work with. And I just try really hard to be understanding and open, and I feel like I'm a little bit out of the box. There's other managers there that have like certain set protocols, and I would just rather have a one-on-one and build that relationship, have that heartfelt conversation, find out what barriers are stopping you from achieving the goals that we need you to have, that the goals that we need, or the work that we need you to do. And we want this to be a place that you are happy to come to, that's a safe place for you. And what can I do to help you with that? And my nieces and my nephews and my children, they call me and ask me for that advice. And I feel like I'm just trying to, spread that out to the organization and the boards that I work on as well. Proud of my experience working with many different nations throughout central and northern BC. I've been with CFNR now for almost 17 years. But as I mentioned, I've used to work here in the Longhouse at the Tsimshian Tribal Council way back in the day, and the Friendship Center here as well. And just that understanding of the uniqueness of the individual First Nations communities that make up central and northern BC. We know that working with the Niska and with the Haida and the Haida and the Gitxsan, they're all beautiful, they're all amazing, but they all have their own uniqueness that needs to be celebrated and be portrayed accurately and authentically. And sorry, I'm going into sales manager mode here with my talking about the communities, but it's something that I know really well and something that I truly believe in. And by leading by example to the people that I work with, that's my style, that's my role, and just relationships at the end of, or is what I lead with and what I want them to leave with, and feeling safe.
To support each other, connect with each other, connect together like we are today. Do it wherever you are. Find each other wherever you are. One of my favorite kind of quotes is straighten each other's crown, right? We're all here to support each other. We shouldn't be in competition with each other. And another really big rule I have is share your admiration for each other any chance you get, right? That feeling, that congratulations, the kudos, the support. I think it's just really important to be open to admiring each other and letting each other know that. I think is really, really empowering. And yeah, just don't be afraid to connect with each other, hold each other up. And yeah, I think that's just a really positive thing that we can do. And again, like you said, show up as your authentic self and people will embrace you. Everybody's going through challenging moments, amazing moments, and we all need to share and connect on them.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. In a world of business where the path to success often seems like a labyrinth of challenges and opportunities, there's a powerful force that can make the journey more rewarding and fulfilling: women supporting women. Let us return to the conversation with Carmine Hedren.
So yesterday, it came up quite a bit, and the concept of like women were always put against each other, especially the smaller the number of us in a company or in an organization. We're compared to each other, we're put up against each other, and we're competing for one job usually. And there's the tokenism of it all. And the only thing I can say is don't fall for it, right? And really, pushing someone down is never going to raise you up. And that took me a really long time to learn. And I wish a lot of the men that I work for had learned that, because I got pushed down a lot. And I will never do it to anyone else to get there. So raise each other up, and you're not going to get higher by pushing anyone down, man or woman, whatever.
Over my career as a small business person, whether I've worked in industry or whether I've been working in the public sector, I've always tried to avail myself of opportunities where I can connect with other people. So whether it was joining an entrepreneurial group or having a mentorship program for women like years ago, these are really interesting opportunities. And I've found actually that those natural mentorships that happen through relationships are sometimes the best ones. And I'm going to point over at Nikki and Jamie over here, who are two incredible small business women from Terrace. And they've got an amazing network of other artists that they work with regularly, and they lift each other up all the time. And it's often that they are next to each other at fairs and activities. Jamie and I collaborated on a mural together as artists several years ago, both single moms out in the middle of the night with our kids with us, projecting an image onto the side of a wall. And through our time together, I learned a lot from her, and I've found that those kind of natural relationships and seeing who you can support and who can support you, and like, hey, I don't know what to do about X, Y, and Z. Do you have an idea? Those are really valuable things. And sometimes it's finding that person that you can check in with. I have a woman that I work with. We don't actually do a lot of work together, but she owns a sign shop, Westcoat Designs in Terrace. And over the last couple months, we've both kind of felt like we needed some, somebody to inspire you to get moving in the morning and get your task list done. And so we've taken to just text messaging each other couple times a day. Hey, did you get those tasks done that you wanted to do this morning? How are you doing on your list today? And that's actually been tremendously helpful, because sometimes it's very isolating as a small business person. You're hustling in your living room or whatever it is that you do, and you don't have colleagues to kind of lift you up and inspire you. So finding somebody that can give you that inspiration and kind of keep you on track is tremendously helpful. And always looking for those leaders in your area, whether they are the aunties, or I was so excited that you referred to all of us as aunties. I've been wanting to be an auntie. I even have my auntie earrings on, my auntie size earrings by Jada. She knows I like the little earrings, but I have the long ulican on today. But finding those people and leaning into those relationships with people that you trust, I think is really important to being able to lift yourself up and others along the way.
But I faced a lot of lateral violence when I was a young reporter trying to, tell stories of our people. So I had a non-Indigenous female news director at one place, and I really faced a lot of just like blatant disregard for my education, and my experience because I was a young Native woman. They didn't take me seriously. And then at an Indigenous news outlet, I then had to face lateral violence from a First Nation leader. And you know, that was even worse because you're my own, you know, you're my people. And I was really treated, I was abused in the workplace, really, like when you think about it. So when I came into this role, and I worked with a lot of artists in Manitoba, I worked at Manitoba Music for 6 years as the Indigenous music coordinator. So I helped tons of Indigenous musicians. And in that leadership role, being a manager of that department, I really learned a lot about all the things I didn't ever want to make somebody feel, because I felt a lot of different things when I was that young person. I should have had aunties to stand with me, to uplift me, to guide me, to teach me, to be that safe space, but I never had that. And now in this role that I'm at, I'm just so amazed at the women that we work with, and I want to never ever make them feel the way I was made to feel when I was that young. That I want them to feel safe and to understand that life happens, things happen, but that they're supported. You know, we have some young women there that work at CFNR that I just, you know, I want them to feel confident in their careers and uplifted and, you know, safe to share, you know, about their life and just to feel good, because that's my goal in this leadership role, that I don't ever want to feel or make somebody feel the way I was made to feel when I was up and coming. I felt alone, and it's hard when you're just having to grind all the time, you know? I just want to thank my colleague Yolanda too, because she asked the organizers if I could moderate this panel. So thank you, Lisa. And that's what Yolanda does. She'll create space for people like me because I'm new here. I don't know anybody yet. And then we're going to the Broadcasters Convention in Banff in June, and she asked that I MC that gala. So that's the stuff that she does in a leadership role. So that's what we have to do, right? We have to support each other. We have to love each other and like let go of the insecurities of ourselves, like no jealousy, no, you know, just no gossip. That's bad. We're bad for that as women, right? So let's not do that. It's a bad energy, and you know, it's negative energy, right?
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Imposter syndrome is when you doubt your own skills and successes. You feel not as talented or worthy as others believe, and you're scared that one day people will realize that. Let us return the conversation to see how many audience members have experienced imposter syndrome.
How many people here suffer from imposter syndrome? Yeah, raise your hand up high. There's a lot of us. You know, you're not an imposter. Everybody's just putting one foot in front of the other. I remember when I joined the corporate sector and was surrounded by like powerful men in most positions. I went to visit a high school university friend in Texas, and she's an engineer. She's not boring at all. She's very cool. But she worked in that like engineering. She was also like one of the only women working in the firm that she worked in. And I was dealing with a lot of senior executives in Rio Tinto and other organizations. And my observation was like, these are just people. These are just like guys putting on their pants, going to work in the morning, putting on their tie and doing their job. And my friend Carmen was like, I don't think that's right. Like, I don't think they're just normal people. But people in leadership roles are just normal people. You know, politicians are normal people who are passionate about what they want to achieve for their communities. You know, people can only come to the table with the skills that they've got and the desire to learn and become better at whatever the job is that is at hand. And so my advice is lean into your abilities, because your abilities are what make you perfect for that job. Don't feel like an imposter, because if you are hustling every day making jewelry and selling it, you're not an imposter. If you are opening a business and you're doing that hard work every day, you're getting the invoices out, you're doing that kind of thing, you are not an imposter. And I suffer from this a lot. And I think one of the things that women tend to do is undervalue their worth. The adage that we heard about yesterday, where, you know, men are more prone to apply for a job that they might not have the qualifications for. I saw that over and over and over again when I was in management at the college, is women underselling their skills. And so own it, own your skills, bring what you have to the table, and trust in your ability, because that's all anybody else is doing. And some people just have a little bit more confidence. And when you're feeling that imposter-y thing, reach out to your people. They're going to remind you that you're awesome and you're bringing lots of skills. So imposter syndrome is for real. And I think really just reaching out to your networks and always putting your best foot forward. And I take pride in doing a really good job. And so when I put my mind to that, I have to remind myself, your time is worth what you're charging. You don't need to give anything away for free. And your role in whatever job you're doing, it's like a contract between you and that organization, whatever it is. And once the terms of that contract's not being met, you can move on. You don't have to stick around if you're not being treated the way that you should be, or if you're not being paid equitably. I'll leave you with one other story. I think one of the things that we can do as women in leadership that really makes effective change is the stuff that nobody sees. It's sitting on the HR panels when you've got people who are equally, or sometimes you've got a person who is a woman who's got the skills, and somebody's like, nah, but we should hire this guy over here. He's got potential. And it's like, but you have a candidate right in front of you who's got all the skills that you need, who has a background that you need. Let's hire this person. And P.S., let's also pay her what you would pay him. So advocating for equal pay, making space for women in jobs, that's what we can do. And that happens behind closed doors.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
What does having a seat at the table really mean? Does it mean that there's someone at the decision-making table that looks like you? Does it mean that there's someone at the decision-making table that thinks like you? In this final segment of Open Connection, Carmine shares what happened when she took her seat.
You have to take your seat at the table. It's not just a seat at the table, it's your seat at the table. This happened to me quite a bit. I was in Arizona. I was on a construction site in the middle of the desert in a room with 40 men and myself. So there were 41 of us. And the table sat 15. And for the first couple of days, I would stand on the corner on the edge of the building, just like everyone else did. The 15 guys took their seats. I stood on the back, and I had to yell. I had a speaking part because I had to contribute to that meeting. But I was too shy. I was too timid. I wasn't worth the seat. And after about day 4, I said, screw this. I'm going to go early, and I'm going to get my seat, not a seat, my seat. And I sat there, and the client looked across the table and said, about frickin' time you took your seat.
Nice.
And it stayed my seat. When I wasn't there, no one sat in that chair.
My advice for any up and coming women who are thinking about leadership would really just be like these two ladies have said, drawing upon your experience, drawing upon what you know, your family dynamic, your role models, the people who have guided you through your education, through your upbringing, in your jobs. And so many people want to help. Sit down and have that conversation. Seek the advice. So many people want to see you succeed. You have a large circle. You have a village, you have a community, you have a nation, you have so many people cheering you on, and they want you to succeed. And reaching out for that advice is not a weakness. Just really draw upon your community and just believe in yourself, because they want you to succeed, and we believe in you. So, and find your seat at the table. I loved your story about the seat at the table. I found my seat at my table as well, and I'm owning it as well.
To kind of echo, imposter syndrome is normal, right? At some point, we all feel like maybe we don't quite fit there. And I had this epiphany last year talking to a young man who I overheard him talking about having imposter syndrome, and I went, wait, what? I thought that was just like a female thing, right? So it's real and it's out there. I think it's about knowing who you are and what you're about. And that's another thing I've been working on, is understanding what my values are, my purpose is, and seeing if I can find the right fit for me, not me fitting into what, you know, a company or an organization might want. I'm what you want, because I know what it is. I know what my purpose is. Just be really honest with yourself and know your strength. And yeah, when you have those moments where you're not sure if you deserve that seat, just find somebody to remind you, hey, yeah, no, that's yours. You just sit down and you own that seat. I also wanted to kind of a little segue into, I don't know if many people are familiar with tall poppy syndrome. It's another type of syndrome that kind of can lead to imposter syndrome. And that's where, if you look at a field of poppies, you'll occasionally see one that's growing taller than the rest. Never be afraid to be a tall poppy, because what happens is all those other poppies want to cut you down a little bit. And when they do that, you're going to cycle into an imposter feeling or situation. So my advice, and I was hoping this question would come up, don't be afraid to be a tall poppy.
Sometimes we just need reassurance and know that we have support, because it's hard sometimes. Sometimes you feel alone. I think it's a lot about respect. It's respect for yourself. It's respect for your staff, and respect for your community, and honesty, right? In Manitoba, we have this thing called 7 sacred teachings, right? So it's, you know, honesty, truth, love, respect, and wisdom, and all of this stuff. If you think of those things, and one of the big things for me is, when I was a journalist years ago, when I was a reporter, one of the most stressful things was sitting with mothers and grandmothers and aunties who've have a missing or murdered daughter or sister or cousin or friend, and then, you know, having to sit with those families and tell really hard stories as an Indigenous journalist. I would always do a tobacco offering or a prayer before I had to do a really hard story, because I had to tell stories about, you know, I don't know if you remember the story about Phoenix Sinclair. That was the little girl that was murdered by her own parents in Manitoba. And it was so heartbreaking. And I was so young. I was only in my 20s. I was still a reporter. And that was one of the hardest things. And that was when I had my first panic attack. And I had no support from the management there. They were so cold, like, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, like, I need support. So I had to go out to my dad, who is an elder and a traditional person, to get that spiritual guidance to help me overcome that feeling, right? So making that space in the workplace too is like, for our culture, we're reclaiming ourselves as First Nations people, our traditional ways, right? So making space for that too, that, you know, that if somebody's having a hard time, that we, you know, think of the way our ancestors dealt with those kind of stuff too. I think that's very important in leadership, and to help that our ancestors walk with us when we're leading, and, you know, that we're thinking about our Ye'ez and Zitis that have gone on to fight for, that are still fighting for what is rightfully ours as First Nations people. So
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection of one's mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.